Hey, Blazing What Ifs here, and today's gonna be a double upload because it's a double recording. Because last recording I did was just an announcement video, and we're gonna start off with something someone told me in the comments that completely slipped my mind when I was recording the last part. Anyway, getting into it, and this is part 6 of What If Deku was a Cyborg. And we're immediately brought to everyone else. We're immediately brought to Bakugo and the rest of the class. The only people missing are the 4 that were mentioned at the end of the last video that had that whole conversation. And everybody is stunned at his voice. Even Bakugo, but Bakugo quickly gets over it and goes to his room. And this is a different Bakugo. This is a Bakugo who's had time to cool down. This is a Bakugo who's semi-nice. And, you know, he's thinking of if he's actually alive, kind of a thing, then I can apologize for everything I did to him, because he's now, because over the past year since Joker told him off, if you remember that from a previous part, he's, you know, gradually become a better person over the years. He's still rude, don't get me wrong, he still wants to be the strongest, he still wants to be stronger than everybody, but once he warms up to you, he's like a nicer person. So he is still, you know, kind of nice, but not really. So he wants to apologize for what he did to Deku. Or should I say Axel, because that's his hero name. Also, someone came up with a name for the AI being Phoenix. So yeah, there's that. So the AI's name is Phoenix. Another thing I'm gonna have to remember and constantly forget. And so that's what they're going through at this moment. And you know, a few days pass. Deku gets a few more blasters added into, you know, shoulders and other places along his back. And for, you know, added strength. And and then we move on to and then they finally go to actually before the training camp, like, this has made this video of him, which news, like, within the next few days, like, they had like a week before the training camp. Within that week, someone took this video to the news, like, the news found this video, like, or should I say, discreetly sent the video to them. At the same time, he sent it to himself from the burner phone. So now every news outlet, and it came with a description saying, if I remember correctly in the video, he addressed himself as Izuka Midoriya, and if I didn't, then he would have done that in the video. He would have said his name. He would have said something like, at the beginning, like, "It's me, Izuka Midoriya," or something like that. And that's just for this national news coverage. And that was specifically because he knew he was going to be sending it to the media as well. So now this entire thing is everywhere. Like, everyone knows about it. Everyone's seen it. And his father took his mother to one of his, safe houses. This is because the press would not stop, badgering her and him. So he went to one of their safe houses, and now they're just laying low there. And when I say safe house, I don't mean like some underground bunker or anything. I just mean a house that no one knows they have, kind of a thing, So they're just staying there for a while. Well, because the press won't stop bugging them, and his father, Hisashi, is like, so you finally went and did it, huh? Kind of a thing. And so he's moving on. He's with it. He's smiling because he knows he's finally starting to make his move. Because, at first, when it first came out and he found out about it, the press instantly went to his place and said, "Did you know that he was still alive? Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah." And so that's why he just went "I'm not even going to deal with this," and took Inko to a safe house. And yeah, so that happened. And then the training arc. So that whole thing happens. So the training arc. Everyone's training with their quirks, with each of their individual quirks, making them stronger, getting more control over them, such and such. Izuku himself is already, he can't really improve on anything because, already having mastery over most of it. So what he's really doing is keeping an eye on Monoma and making sure Monoma never makes contact with him, because then they'll realize that it's not a quirk, and he'll be found out pretty quickly. So he's making sure that Monoma doesn't get anywhere near him. And then that first night, I just skipped over a bunch of stuff, but I'm just trying to get through this as fast to the actual combat as quickly as possible. But he easily made his way through that whole thing with the Wild Pussycats. Pixie Bob would have never attacked him because he never would have called her old. And but he would have seen it coming because he has quirk sensors on his body that tells him when someone is activating their quirk nearby. Just like he has life detect, a life sensor to tell when there's life nearby. He can tell when someone's activating their quirk, so he's never caught off guard. So that he's never caught off guard. So when she started doing that, she's like, oh, gotta go. And so he zoomed off, right? And then quickly everyone else followed in the landslide. Izuku would have gotten there first and would be sitting down and relaxing while waiting for everybody else. Because he thinks that, it's training, they should be able to handle it themselves. If they were in any danger, he'd go help them, but he doesn't feel like they actually are in any danger. And moving on to the next one. The end of the first night there, the first night of training, he starts to sense life forms that are human that aren't a part of, the wild pussycats, or, the person that was there. Now, if you're wondering what would happen, he would have approached, Kenta, I think his name was. He would have approached the little boy that punched him in the dick in the original canon series. Except this time when he tried to punch him, he would have caught it with a hand. He would have blocked it with a hand, in which the kid would have broke his hand on his metal body. In which Mandalay would have immediately went to him, but would have allowed Senta here, or Axel, but then Phoenix would have reminded him that he has a new upgrade in his body, or rather something that was implemented originally that he's never really had a use for. And that would be the nanobots stored in his chest. Which kind of work like, oh god. How am I slipping up on her name? Recovery Girl's quirk. It works like Recovery Girl's quirk. So, he kind of takes his hand and he tries to pull away, but this is Izuku we're talking about. His strength is amazing because he's a freaking machine. And at this point, I'd say he could probably lift like 650 pounds. 700 if he pushed it. So, that kid ain't going anywhere unless he rips his arm off. Which he's not. And he takes and some of the nanobots come out of his chest. And Izuku can see them because his helmet is, it's like a microscope too, like super sight kind of a thing. So he sees them. He knows where they are. He's like connected to them telepathically, kind of a thing, like Bluetooth. And they go. And they're nanobots. Like, when I say nanobots, like, I'm talking about they're so small they can get in between his cells, kind of nanobots, without causing any bleeding. So some of them get into his body, and then, do their work, and expand the healing process, and work just like Recovery Girl's quirk, and heal his hand, and then go back, and then come out, and go back into his chest, without anyone being the wiser of what happened. And all they do is see this red light glowing from the inside of his hand, and then stopping. His chest would have opened a bit, then a few seconds later, the red glow happened. And then a few seconds after the glowing stopped, the chest closed, which leads them to believe that he did something. That there's some sort of immensely small machine in his chest that went and did its work. Did I get a... Yeah. Oh gosh. I mean... No, that's not a lie. Because... all the things that I can do with that... If y'all saw that comment that just showed up, y'all know. And yeah, so that's a thing. So it's like, so they're thinking like, now he can heal people too. What can't he do? Like, that was literally one of the very few things that he couldn't do, and now he can. What the fuck? You know? So it's like, what can't he do? Like, he has to do something. He has to not be able to do something. It seems like every single time we see him again, after like a break or something, he has something new to work with, and it doesn't make sense. Some new overpowered ability. It's just not fair. And they're right, it's not fair. Anyway, skip to the part where there's the whole trial thing, and Izuku's up in the front, or Axel is up in the front. And so he's there, and he feels the life forces again. He senses one on a cliff and one approaching, and then one life form is approaching a cliff, and he feels several life forms out in the distance. Which he assumes to be, non-friendly. And just like the case when he met Overhaul the first time, or rather saw Overhaul for the first time, not really, meeting him for the first time, but, seeing him for the first time. He goes, he gets that same kind of vibe from the person approaching the cliff. That, murderous intent kind of a vibe from that person, even from so far away. Even from, like, just detecting their life force and how they're moving is an instant tell for him. So he believes that the other people that are out in that forest aren't friendlies either. So he goes to the teachers and the Wild Pussycats, and he tells them that there are already people in the forest, and they don't seem friendly. And he tells them about how he can track life and emotional intent, or murderous intent, or something along those lines, and he can feel it coming from a few of them. So he doesn't think that this is going to be, just anybody. And that they should be ready. So now everybody's prepared. And he says, I'll be right back. I have to go. I'm sensing someone on the cliff. I'm going to be right back. So he goes and he finds Kenta, or whatever the kid's name is, up there. And Muscular about to, attack him. So naturally he goes and defends him. And starts fighting back against Muscular. And here's the kicker. Here's the kicker that really ties all of these series together as one thing. He gets a flash. Green lightning starts to form from his body. And somehow he's getting a flash that he's done this before. That this moment has happened. And Phoenix is like, are you okay? Your heart rate is increasing. And Phoenix is like, are you okay? Your heart rate's increasing. Yes, Irish/Scottish. I don't know which. I can't really, differentiate them. But I can try. I am Irish, so I get to do that if it's Irish. I think it's Irish. I feel like it's Irish. I'm trying to do Irish, so I can get away with this. This isn't healthy. Hey, you need to calm down. All while he's, fighting off, and I say heart rate, but it's really just his mind racing. It would be his heart rate if, he had one. And a literal heart, not a metaphorical heart. Because he literally doesn't have a heart. Anyway, you get the point. And so the fight goes on. And, he's having a rough time with Muscular, but he reaches while the muscles are, coming out, because if you've seen how Muscular's quirk works, while the, muscles are coming out and attaching, he reaches into him, and then sends out a frost burst. And, he says, "You need to chill out." No, that's not the voice. God damn, I haven't done it in a while, so now... You know what? You need to chill out. No, I can't do it, guys. I'm sorry. I've lost it. I had it. Now lost it. No. I don't know why I'm trying anymore. Yeah. Nope. I'm still trying. Moving on. He goes... and he says, "You need to chill out," in the deep voice. I've lost the voice, guys. I can't do it again, and I apologize. But it's harder than it sounds. Now I'm showing off. And basically it freezes, Muscular to his core. He's not dead because of how much muscle mass he has, but he is, borderline freezing, because that's almost absolute zero temperatures that he's just blasted right into him. Well, not sub-zero, but 0 degrees Celsius, not even 0 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 degrees Celsius, which I think is colder. I don't know. Whichever one's colder, 0 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 degrees Celsius, that's what it's at. So it's pretty dang cold. But it's not going to be enough to kill him, or at least he would he would use a different temperature. I'm just saying 0 degrees because, 0 degrees. He wouldn't do anything that would kill him, just to stun him there for a bit before he goes and creates the paralysis poison, and which then deactivates his quirk, leaving Muscular in just his normal state before he uses the paralysis agent on Muscular, which will last a few hours, which hopefully the authorities won't take that long to get there. And then he goes down to find one of the wild pussycats. It's Pixie Bob, knocked unconscious by a guy with a giant magnet. And Axel immediately turns invisible, which he then goes and he still has the paralysis agent going and his blade arm going, and so he immediately paralyzes, I know English, both Spinner and the magnet person. And Dobby and the rest of them just see both of them fall unconscious into the ground, not being able to move, and they're like, "You know what? Fuck this shit. I'm leaving." So like I ain't getting caught for this, just to grab this one kid, just to grab that cyborg kid, and they run off because their goal was to grab Senta so that All For One could steal his quirk, could steal Senta's quirk, and then free Shigaraki. Little did they know that would have amounted to nothing in the end. And so the rest of them get out. And then when they get back to All For One, he's pissed beyond belief. Like, they failed again. Which means the whole hideout raid thing, the whole All Might's final thing, that doesn't happen. But if you're all wondering, he did technically beat I will get more into the whole thing that happened in the muscular fight, into more detail with the overhaul fight. The overhaul fight is when that'll really be pieced together. So that whole thing that happened with the hideout raid, that never happened. And with this, I believe the training camp is over, and we're moving into work study. Like, so if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'll do whatever I missed in the next part, but I really want to get to this. So we move on to the work studies, which means Class 1A against Mirio. So the big three show up, and Mirio is willing to fight them and all that whole thing. And in the end, he knocks out, it still happens in canon, except for one thing. He knocks out everybody except Izuku, except for Axel, because he's always has the mask on, so I'm just going to call him Axel. Except for Axel, and he realized that Axel wasn't there, and so after he's knocked out everybody, he's looking for Axel, because he's not stupid. He knows that he's missing, and he's looking around, and then Axel, there, and from one direction, he hears the rest of his body materializes, and he says, "You missed me." And then for a fraction of a second, and then Mirio goes to, knock him out. Before he realizes that, hold on, he's missing an arm. And an invisible arm goes and whacks him on the side of the neck, neck chops him right on that nerve as he falls unconscious into the ground. Maybe he should have used his quirk and came up somewhere else. Just saying. As his arm turns visible again just as it makes contact. And then it goes and reattaches back to, the rest of his arm. Izuku saying that he got a little too cocky with that last charge. And let's be honest here, Izuku's IQ is like Nezu level, if not a bit higher. He's smart AF, guys. Like, I don't know how to stress this anymore. He's a strategist. That's what he does. I'm not a strategist, so I can't come up with any strategies that he would, come up with. So I'm just gonna say that he comes up with strategies. But it totally knocked Mirio out of left field. Like, he totally didn't see it coming. And neither did the other two in the big three. Neither did Najire or the other guy or Sun Eater, because I only remember his hero name. Someone's gonna tell me what his name is in the comment section. I know it. It's a fact. And yeah. And so, because Mirio didn't know about him being invisible. None of them really did, other than, Class 1A and Class 1B, as well as Aizawa and the Wild Wild Pussycats, because they saw him become visible again afterwards, like out of nowhere. So all of them knew that he could do it. They don't know how, but they knew he could. And so it was pretty... So they saw it coming, but the big three didn't. And no one told the big three either. So basically he won. So basically, technically speaking, Class 1A won, but it was really all Axel's doing because no one else was able to do it. No one else was even able to lay a finger on Mirio. And so, the work studies go on. I feel like I'm missing something, and because of that, I'm going to end the episode here. And if it turns out that I didn't miss anything, then we're probably going to see the whole overhaul arc in part 7. See ya.